Hello, everybody. How are you? Okay, so we're going to go over our factoring quiz that we just took so that we can make sure we have great mastery of it. Okay, so there were two forms of the quiz. So, Form A, you had an A in the upper right hand corner, something like that. Hold on one second. Let me let it right here. You had like an A here. And if you had Form B, you had a B in that upper corner. Okay, I'm going over Form A, but I will tell you which question it matches in Form B. So number one, okay, is the same as number 10 in Form B. Okay, so if you're on Form B, you can go to number 10. Okay, so again, the first step in factoring is the greatest common factor. Greatest common factor first. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look. Look at the spooky 1 in the front here, right? So between 1 and 10, there is no GCF other than 1, which doesn't help us in this case. But look at the variables. We have x squared and x to the first. So we always take out the lower power of the variable. So that would be x. Okay, don't forget to write the GCF in the front there. Okay, so divide by x, divide by x. So x squared divided by x, when you divide, you subtract exponents. So we're left with x to the first, if you want to write it, but you don't have to, plus, and remember, anything divided by itself is 1. So we're left with 10. And that's your final answer. And remember, we said that after you're done, you could distribute through and check your work. So if you wanted to at this point, right, you could, let me just change colors here. That's a cool color. To x times x is x squared plus x times 10 is 10x. That's called the distributive property. Distributive property. Okay? Okay, so now number 2 on Form A corresponds, number 2 on Form A corresponds to number 6 on Form B. Okay, look in the upper right-hand corner of your quiz to see which version you have. Okay, the first step in factoring, GCF. Remind yourself over and over of that, GCF. So you want to take out, okay, this is being fickle, the GCF first. Okay, so take out, what's the GCF between 3 and 27? 3. Remember, if you're not able to get the GCF easily on your own, we did math, number, and then 9, GCD, and we put in 3, 27. Again, we want you to master this factoring. Okay, so it's very, very important that if you didn't get it the first time, you have a chance to now get it the second time. Okay, so you take out the GCF. There's no variable that they have in common, so let's divide out by the GCF, and you're left with x squared minus 9. Okay, after you take out the GCF, the next step in factoring is if there is a GCF and you're taking it out, check to see if you have a binomial or a trinomial. Binomial is 2 terms, and in this case, it's the difference, which is subtraction, of 2 perfect squares. So remember, don't forget to bring down the greatest common factor, right? We don't want to discriminate. He comes along for the ride, but now we double bubble. x and x minus 3 plus 3. If you did plus 3 minus 3, you're okay as well. Okay, and at some point, again, you could definitely double distribute this out. Remember, we said some people use FOIL, but you could double distribute here and here and here and here, then multiply by the 3, and you'll get the original problem back. And we'll try one of those in a little bit. Okay. So now let's look at number 3. Again, what's the first step in factoring? The first step in factoring is the greatest common factor. Oh, so by the way, number 3 corresponds to number 8 on Form B. Form B. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is find the GCF of 16 and 64. Okay, that would be 16. Again, if you need the calculator to help you or you need to write out the factors, do so. All right, they have no variable in common, so I divide out by 16 on both sides. I get x to the 4th minus 4. I left a lot of space there, sorry about that. Let me fix that up. Okay. Okay, so there we go. So now, you say, oh, I wonder if I have the combo meal here, if I can continue factoring. Okay, here's a difference, and this is a perfect square, and this is a perfect square. We went over what perfect squares are. And remember, when the exponent is even, it is a good indication that it's probably a perfect square. Okay, so we do double bubble. X squared minus 2 plus 2. If you want to do plus 2 minus 2, you could do that as well. Now, you may be saying, oh, Ms. Konzak, x squared is a perfect square. That is correct, but 2 is not. That's why our journey on this factoring problem comes to an end, because we can't take the square root of 2. 2 is not a perfect square. 2 is not a perfect square. Okay. All right, let's go to the next problem. Now, number four on Form A is number 5 on Form B. Okay, so if you have Form B, just take a look at number 5, or you could follow along here. I just don't want you to have a different quiz, say like, where is she? Okay. All right, so the first step in factoring is greatest common factor. Okay, the numbers, we have 1 and 4, that's spooky 1. That's not going to help us, right? Factoring out a 1. So now we look at the variables. So this is y to the first. Remember, we always take out the lower power of the variable. So we take out y. So we divide by y, divide by y. Girls, we have to remember our exponent rules. When we divide, we subtract exponents. Y to the third divided by y to the spooky 1 is y squared. Minus y divided by y is 1, and 4 times 1 is 4. So now we say to ourselves, oh, are we done? Let's just check if there's a combo meal here. There is a combo meal. Bring down the GCF. This is the difference of 2 perfect squares. So double set of parentheses, y minus 2, y plus 2. Okay, so we're trying to remediate any work that you may have done that wasn't correct using this video. And then if you're still having difficulty, you need to come to me and we'll go over it further. But again, you need to do step 1, step 2, step 3. Remember that flow chart we created. Greatest common factor first. Take it out. If you can keep going, is it a binomial? Is it the difference of 2 perfect squares? Oh, it's not a binomial? Then it's a trinomial, which is the AM method, which we'll get up to shortly. Okay? All right. So that was number 4. Okay, so now we're on number 5, which is, whoops, sorry.
All seniors who signed up to attend the Binghamton University presentation, the presentation has been moved to room 105. Please take your lunch and go to room 105.
Okay, so it's number 9 on Form B. Number 9 on Form B. Okay, so here we go. What's the first step in factoring, girls? GCF. Take out the 3. GCF of 3 and 12 is 3. Okay. Divide out by 3. Divide out by 3. Okay, so let me take a drink of water. Hold on. Okay. So now divide, and you're left with x squared minus 4. So now you want to say to yourself, do I have a combo meal? Oh, I do have a combo meal, but let's not forget about the first part of the combo meal. Bring down that 3. Double bubble x and x minus 2 plus 2. Again, or it could be plus 2 minus 2. Remember we talked about that? That's called the commutative property. Commutative property. Okay, and again, more on that later on in the course. We're going to go through all the properties again, but I know I mentioned it, so I just want to keep those words going, flowing. Okay, so here we go. Let me just block this one off here. Okay, so now number 6. So number 6 refers to, on Form A, refers to number 1 on Form B. Okay, so if you have Form B, it's number 1 on Form B. Okay, so what's the first step in factoring? First step in factoring is GCF. If you're a big fan of putting in those spooky ones, right? Invisible math, put them in. First step, GCF. What's the greatest common factor of 4 and 36? 4. Okay, take that out. But also x to the third and x to the first, what's the lower power of the variable, meaning what's the most thing that we could take out? We can't take 3 things out of 1, but we could take 1 out of 3. So we take the lower power of the variable, so we take out x, and now divide by 4x, divide by 4x. Okay, 4 divided by 4 is 1. What's x cubed divided by x to the first? It's x squared, because when you divide, you subtract exponents, minus x divided by x is 1. 36 divided by 4 is 9. Now you say, do we have a combo meal? So 4x, double bubble, x and x, minus 3 plus 3, because it's the difference, subtraction, of 2 perfect squares. So it's the difference of 2 perfect squares. And we went through what perfect squares are, right? Okay, so if you need to review that separately with me, definitely come. Okay, and we'll go over it again. All right, so next one, here we go. We're getting there, moving right along. So now this is number 7 on Form A, which refers to number 4 on Form B. Okay, so we're going to factor this. Okay, you look for the GCF. You're like, do they all have something in common? They don't. So you're like, uh-oh. Now you say, is the difference of 2 perfect squares. That means it has to be a binomial, which is 2 terms. It's not a binomial, it's a trinomial, okay, with a coefficient of 1. All right, so we only did the coefficient of 1 right now. So what we did is when we had these kind of problems, we said, so first of all, if you want to put the spooky 1 in here, okay, we said what multiplies to negative 20 and adds to positive 1. Now, what we said you could do in your calculator is you could put in y equals negative 20 divided by x, okay, and do second graph, which brought up your table, and then you could look for the factors there. Let me quickly see if I could do that with you here. I don't know if it's gonna let me. No, okay. My TI-83 is hiding. My TI-83 is hiding. Ah, can't spell. Yeah, no, I don't know why it's hiding. There's giving me problems in school too, you remember? Okay, so I showed you how to do this in school. Again, if you need me to, next time I'm gonna have the calculator already pulled up. But remember, we looked in the left column, the right column to see what added to a positive 1. A lot of you were able to do this in your head, okay, but it was positive 5 and negative 4, right? 5 plus negative 4 is 1, and 5 times negative 4 is 20. So our answer was x plus 5 and x minus 4. So again, if you're having problems with signs, you need to let me know that as well, because that can definitely, and we went over all the different possibilities, but that can definitely not help in solving some of these. But remember, if the b is positive, the bigger number has to be positive. Okay. And remember the a, b, and c. So it was ax squared plus bx plus c. Here's your a, here's your b, here's your constant term. Okay, more to follow on that beautiful quadratic. Okay, so number 8 I know is multiple choice. So technically, if you get a multiple choice question, you could go through the choices and you could double distribute each one, right? X times x, x times negative 2, 3 times x, 3 times negative 2. See if it matches to that. You could definitely do that if you were in a bind. Let's pretend there's no multiple choice. By the way, so number 8, before I forget, on Form A corresponds to number 7 on Form B. Okay, so we're going to factor this. Let's do this. So is there a GCF? No. Is it the difference of two perfect squares? Is there a subtraction sign with two perfect squares? No. It's a trinomial, so we double bubble x and x. We want to see, remember, add, multiply. What multiplies to negative 6 but adds to 5? Okay, so again, if you need to use the calculator for that, okay, otherwise you could think, this is a little tricky because a lot of people think it's 2 and 3, but there's no way, and then, but 2 multiplied by 3 would be positive 6, right? So it's kind of like, it's a little tricky, you got to keep thinking. You can make this by doing a positive 6 and a negative 1, because 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. But 6 plus negative 1, or added to negative 1, is positive 5. So it's plus 6 and minus 1. Okay, how are we doing? I'm trying to go at a pace where the video doesn't get too long. I'm not going too quickly, but that you hear my voice and like you do in class, and you hear it again, and hopefully by doing this you can listen over and over if you have to, and you'll get this factoring down. Okay, so 2 more to go. All right, so number 9. Okay, so number 9 is number 3 on Form B. Okay, and again, the first step in factoring is greatest common factor. Is there a greatest common factor? No. Is it a binomial? Are there two terms with a minus sign? Perfect squares? No. It's a trinomial. Add, multiply. We factor in the AM. All right, so double bubble, x and x. What multiplies to -3 but adds to 2? Okay, so we have +3 and -1. So 3 plus -1 is 2. 3 times -1 is -3. So the two factors are +3 minus 1. If you write it as -1 plus 3, that's fine as well. Okay, and number 10 refers to number 2 on Form B. Number 2 on Form B. Okay, so again, now last hurrah here, and then I want to make sure you listen to this and so you have this down, right? We'll go through the flow chart in a second before we leave. Okay, so first step, GCF. There is none. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to see, is it the difference of two perfect squares? So two perfect squares means subtraction sign, right? With two perfect squares, 2, 1, 2, two terms. Okay, no, it's a trinomial. There's 3 terms. So double bubble, x and x. Okay, what we want to do is we want to multiply, right? Add, multiply. We factor in the AM. We want to multiply to 24, but add to -11. So let's see what multiplies to 24, adds to -11. You could really sit here and you could pull out the factors and you could say, okay, 4 and 6. Can that somehow get to 11? 2 and 12. A lot of students do this. That's totally fine. Some people are using their calculator to help them with the way that I showed you. Let's see what else. 24 and 1, which won't get us there, right? Again, when the numbers get bigger, it gets a little bit more challenging, but you got this. 3 and 8. So -3 and -8. Why -3 and -8? Because you have to add to -11, but multiply to a positive 24. So -3 and -3 and -8. Okay. So I hope that helps. Okay. And I know that if you're still having difficulty, this is a tricky unit. You're gonna come to me for help. But remember, what's the first step in factoring? Greatest common factor. Take it out first. If after that you're done, you're done. Okay. Let's say you're not done. Then you could have DOPS, right? Difference of two perfect squares, which if there is no GCF, look for that first. And remember, that has 2 terms, subtraction sign, and they're perfect squares. Okay. Then if you have 3 terms, trinomial. So trinomial. This is 2 terms, and then trinomial is 3 terms, and this was the AM method for trinomial. I know that we went beyond this, like that wasn't covered on the quiz. So we did some trinomials with GCF, and then we started grouping. So that's why we want to get this down. So when we add the next set of methods, that we know how to factor sufficiently, and we have good mastery over it, and we feel confident. And again, if you don't have this, if you feel like you don't know it, you just don't know it yet, okay? There is still ample time to learn this. Come to me. I'm here for you. My extra help schedule is on Schoology. So girls, you got this. I'll see you soon. Smile.